Hello, in this video we look at the method to integrate a function of a linear function. In this case, the numerator is a constant, which we can see here. The constant c, or in this example it's 3, and the denominator is the nth root of a linear function. So the general formula is here. In our particular example here, we're looking at the cube root of 6x minus 2. The first step is to bring the constant out before the integral sign. So you can see in this first step, the 3 is taken outside, so it's 3 times the integral of 1 over the cube root of 6x minus 2. The next step is that the root of the radical must be rewritten as a power or an index. So here we have the cube root of 6x minus 2, and we need to rewrite that as 6x minus 2 to the power of 1/3. Then, having done this, we're then able to bring the denominator to the top, and we do that by switching the sign, so the plus 1/3 becomes minus 1/3. Now we have this formula in a format where we can apply the integral formula. The integral of nx, x to the power of n, which is a standard equation in the tables, dx is equal to x to the power of n plus 1 divided by n plus 1. So in this example, you raise the power by 1, and then you divide by the raised power. So we apply the same principle here to this one. So what we have to do here, our power is minus 1/3, so we have to raise this power by 1. So minus 1/3 plus 1 is minus 1/3 plus 3 over 3, which is equal to 1 minus 1 plus 3 is 2. So you get 2/3. So what we do here is we write down our constant, the 3. The linear function 6x minus 2 is now brought, the power has been raised by 1, so the power is now 2/3. We divide by the raised power, so we divide by 2/3. And we also divide by the coefficient of x, so we divide by the 6. In the next step, we need to evaluate the constants. So the first thing we can do is we have 2/3 here, so we're dividing by 2/3. So it's easier to invert that, and instead of dividing by 2/3, we're multiplying by 3 over 2, which is what you see here. Now we're in a position to tidy up these constants. So if you look at this, that 3 goes into that twice. So we're left with 3 over 4. We have 2 over 2 underneath. It's giving us 4, and it's 3 over 4. What we need to do is transform the answer back to a radical. That's using a cube root sign or square root sign. So the step here is that you split the 2/3 here into 2 times 1/3. Then what you have next then is the 1/3 tells you that you're going to get the cube root. So you get the cube root here because it's 1/3. And within the cube root, the linear function 6x minus 2 is squared. It's brought to the power of 2. So the whole number tells you that the linear function has to be brought to the power of the whole number. And then the fraction part will tell you which root you have to apply. So you can see here that we have a final answer here. The integral of this function is 3/4 times the cube root of 6x minus 2 to be squared, plus the constant of integration. So if I apply now the same method to a new question here, we can come here and apply it to this question. Y is equal to 2 divided by the square root of x minus 2. Now I have put in the square root here, but normally you'll see that you don't normally put in the value of 2 if it's a square root. So if I do this function here, y dx is equal to 2 times the integral of 1 over the square root of x minus 2 dx. So we bring the constant outside. Then we need to rewrite the radical, the square root, as an index or a power. So that's equal to 2 over the square root of 1 to the power fx minus 2 to the power of a half dx. Having done this, we're now able to bring this term denominator up on top. So it's 2 times the integral of x minus 2 to the power of minus a half dx. And now we're in a position where we can apply the formula from the log tables, or the mathematical tables. Our power in this case is minus a half. So minus a half plus 1 is equal to minus a half plus 2 over 2, which is minus 1 plus 2 gives me plus 1 over 2. I then apply the integral. Having worked that out, I can then continue my calculation. So it's equal to 2 times, I write down the linear function x minus 2. So 2 is my constant, I just bring it down here. So if I just show that, I just bring the constant down here. I write out the linear function and I bring it to the raised power. So I've raised the minus a half to plus a half. I divide by this raised power and I divide by the coefficient of x, which in this case is 1, plus my constant of integration. I can now just tidy things up a bit. So, I can now simplify this by, I have 2 here, and the half, if I invert that, so dividing by half is the same as multiplying by the inverse of that, which is 2 times x minus 2 to the power of a half, plus my constant of integration. And that gives me 4 times the square root of x minus 2 plus the constant of integration. So here the power is a half, so I know I can rewrite that as the square root. And I don't need to put the 2 in. I can put it in, but I don't know, you would not normally put the 2 in there. So that is the solution of this one. That's a fairly easy one. And then having completed this easy enough example, we can come up and do a slightly more difficult one. If I move up to here, it's not that much more difficult, but following the procedures again, and following the method again, the integral of y dx is equal to minus 3 times the integral, so I bring the constant outside, 1 over the cube root of 2x plus 4. So sorry, I should have said this function is y is equal to minus 3 over the cube root of 2x plus 4. The next step then is to write this radical using a power. So it's 2x plus 4 to the power of 1/3 dx. And then having done that, I can bring it up on top by changing the sign of the power, the 1/3. So it's 2x plus 4 to the power of minus 1/3 dx. And then what we're going to do is raise this power, so I'll just put it in brackets here. We have to raise this power when we apply the rule, the integral rule that we see over here on the left-hand side. So minus 1/3 plus 1 is minus 1/3 plus 3 over 3, which is minus 1 plus 3 is 2 over 3. So having worked that out, we can continue and apply the integration rule now. We can integrate whatever the term inside the integral. So it's minus 3 times 2x plus 4 to the power of 2 over 3 divided by the raised power. So it's 2 over 3. And we also divide by the coefficient of x, which is shown here. So we divide that by that coefficient as well. The next step then is 2. I'll just scroll down a little bit. Next step then is it's minus 3 divided by 2, the coefficient of x. And then we invert the raised power, so 2/3 is dividing by 2 over 3 is the same as multiplying by 3 over 2 times 2x plus 4 to the power of 2/3. And then we can do the 2 steps. We can tidy up that. None of these terms will cancel. So it's minus 9 over 4. And we want to rewrite it, the answer, as a radical. So we split the 2/3 here into 2 times 1/3. Then that is equal to minus 9 over 4. I open up root symbol. It's 1/3, which tells me it's the cube root. And I write the linear function. And I know that I'm going to raise that to the power of 2. So that is my final answer. Okay, thank you for listening.